Testing 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. Turning on my monitors. All right. Hey, everybody. How's it going? All right. We're back. Okay, so yeah, we got things rolling the other day again. And I actually managed to squeeze in the first 6 songs, I believe, from the list. And we'll try to get to the rest of them today. Let me know if you want to hear anything from that list. I guess the list is gone now, but just whatever. Yeah, I'm going to play through these pieces, starting with the piece that I originally learned the third movement on for my junior in high school spring recital, and it was a crazy piece. And in college, I was like, I wonder what those other 2 movements are like. The first one's really quirky. It's really based on piano voicings, guitar voicings. Eda Daves, Get Better Eggs. Eddie ate Dynamite, Goodbye Eddie. Anyways, it's a piece written by Alberto Ginastera, who was Argentina's premier composer of the 20th century, and he tried to bridge the world of European art music and stuff with his regional music, which was, of course, based more on guitar than it was on piano, and that's where these 3 movements come from, kind of that blend of guitar harmonies and piano classical music. So these are the 3 movements of Danzas Argentinas. Hope you like it. Yeah, that one's a wild ride. That is the third movement of Danzas Argentinas by Alberto Ginastera, going all the way back to junior in high school. That one's crazy. That's kind of a one I should have been a little more warmed up for. Just calisthenically, that one can kind of hurt you if you're not careful. But it's so fun. I cannot wait till I'm going to have these pieces memorized again before you know it, folks. You won't have to, like, suffer these page turns. But yeah, this is the first time I've played these songs in a year. Life has been pretty interesting in mostly good ways. Some curveballs definitely thrown at me this 2022 so far, but counting my blessings every single morning and psyched back to teaching at pre-COVID levels with like the best lineup of students ever. I mean, I've had awesome students all my life and some real superstars out there now in the world, but just as far as just consistently hitting the ground running on Monday and just looking at my calendar, and part of me is like, oh my God, 5 lessons a day every day, but then I look at who it is that I get to be working with, and yeah, whew, I've been telling people I can't complain, and then I say, well, I actually can, but if I do, slap me because I got no business complaining. Okay, enough talking. Just suffice to say, I'm really happy to be catching up with life to get to be able to do this again for y'all. Send me any comments you have, any requests you have, and yeah, you're gonna get to be seeing these things getting back up to speed and under my fingers and in my brain, and not having to use the music, I think, before we know it. So we'll see what happens. It's all about the ride, right? Okay, anybody checking in? Not yet. Okay, we got one people. I always wonder if that one watching now means me, but who knows? Hey, and I got a friend here. Look at that. Oh, yeah. I was wondering if he was going to play a little piano for us. Hopefully not when I was playing. Thank you for waiting, Bubba. This is my friend Bubba. His nickname. His name's Pan, really, short for Panda. And, another thing, another curveball in the last year, I lost my buddy. Me for after 14 years. He was my studio manager, my little guy. You'll see him on my shoulder in all of the Music Compass Dr. Zalotti videos. I thought I was going to have him for at least another year, and then a year ago tomorrow, going to have a little ceremony at his little altar up front. And, but the house was really super quiet when he left. And, and one of my students, a couple of my students actually, their family rescues cats, and they sent a picture of this crazy little guy and thought, well, we think he's going to be right for you if it's not too early, and it wasn't too early. And so, yes, I have a very, very funny person named Pan, and he likes to play piano. I have a lot of stories about some funny stuff he's done in the studio already. So you might be seeing him from time to time, maybe even playing a couple of notes while I'm trying to play my notes. And hey, it's that random, we called it indeterminacy in school. Aleatory and indeterminacy, where aleatory means chance and indeterminacy means different every time. And yeah, he's got both of those qualities for sure. Okay, enough talking. We're going to do I do 2 Chopin pieces as part of this 12-song lineup. The first one was the first one I played the other day, the Raindrop Prelude in D flat. This one is a really cool kind of obscure piece. It's a Polonaise, meaning it's a Russian dance in 3/4. And this one was posthumously released, meaning he never really published it in his lifetime, and they published it after he was departed. And the only reason I started playing it is I had a book of Polonaises, and it was kind of the one that looked the easiest, so I started playing it. And it is cool. It's got some really cool things in here that there's a really hard jazz part. There's a really hard section that we'll see how my stumbling through phase here deals with that section. But the harmonies are like ninths and 13ths, as they would become to be called in jazz theory, but I don't know, only 60 or so years after this. Hello! How you doing, Bubba? There he is. Okay, we'll start playing and see if Bubba has anything to add while I'm playing it. Chopin's Polonaise in D minor. Yeah, I really, really like the harmonies on that one. I'm gonna go back and play that section that I call the jazz section. For this first reboot pass of all these things, I'm just gonna play them and just see what happens. But a lot of you who were following me when I was doing this pretty much every morning for the first 2 or 3 months of lockdown for up to 2 or 3 hours, what I would do is there's 12 pieces, so I'd roll a couple dice, and whatever number that would come up, I would choose the corresponding little spoke on the circle of fifths and choose that as sort of the random song of the day, and then play it through, and then really just kind of, stick around if you want or not, but be a fly on the wall while I actually do my rehearsal on that, which involves a lot of like diving into certain places and really sinking in and looping them, and also, talking out loud about a lot of the theory, because, music theory, the thing that really helps me more than anything is just it helps me memorize, because then I don't have to memorize like 15 different notes. I can just memorize that, oh, that's an arpeggio of this chord and then this scale coming down. I have to remember like 2 or 3 things in my brain rather than like 15 or 20. So anyways, it's kind of fun because you'll get just a chance to see, I don't know what it takes to really own this stuff, because back in the day I'd memorize it but then just kind of rely on just muscle memory, which I'm kind of doing a little bit here. But that's a setup, because you can do that when you're all by yourself and it's all fun and fine and dandy and you're in the flow and everything, and if you mess up, no big deal. But it's funny, all it takes when you're playing this classical music style, to me at least, all it takes is one other person paying attention, and then it's so easy to just kind of freeze up and be like, I've played this 100 times on autopilot, but I really actually don't know what notes I'm playing here. So if you know, like, oh, it's a B flat major 7th thing going on there, it just gives you one more thing to latch onto. So anyways, yeah, as we continue getting these things back up to speed, we will be doing a lot of that sort of behind the scenes sort of stuff that, I don't know, I really enjoyed. This next piece was the piece that I played for my senior year in high school, another Russian piece by Prokofiev. It's Toccata in D minor, and the one of, I think, my favorite all-time quote-unquote master class that I did a couple years ago during that mode was just a really, really big deep dive into this, and it's all about half steps. This thing, I could talk to you about, I could go on for like 3 hours analyzing this. And really what it amounts to is it's Prokofiev writing a musical essay on the very notion of the half step. So I'm not going to say any more than that right now, but yeah, see what you think. It was just a bunch of nonsense when I played this back in high school, but now it makes perfect sense. It's pretty fun. Anyways, Toccata in D minor by Sergei Prokofiev from 1913 there it says. Prokofiev's Toccata in D minor. A lot left on that one to get back up to speed. But wow, when that one gets under your fingers, it is a really, really wild ride. This kind of stuff. The part that I was really having trouble with that time was the... I just couldn't remember which hand goes on top. It's the right hand and the left hand. Let's try that again. Yeah, I think it's got to be that way. Okay, we're not going to rehash anything today more than that. Okay, now for something completely different. Let's go back 250 years or so, from 1913 to, well, it's got to be before 1750 because that's when Bach left the world, heralding the end of the Baroque period. So we're going to go from 20th century Russian music to 18th century German music. I like this piece very much more, I don't know, much more accessible to like normal listeners, let's put it that way. This is the Concerto in F. Like clockwork, lots of 16th notes there. And the thing about Bach is fingering. There, mostly I got it down, but there's some spots I'm gonna have to make some decisions, because the thing about that is even when you get the notes right, it can sound so clunky if it's not even and smooth. Da 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 da. It's like, whew. That's one that's really nice when it's smooth and even, because the harmonies are just so delicious, and you just don't want to get distracted by clunkiness. Okay, here's one that's not clunky at all, and no 16th notes, barely even, not even a eighth note to be seen. It's just all quarter notes, half notes, and dotted half notes. It's in a slow 3/4. This is one you've heard on many a commercial, many a movie soundtrack. This is a French piece by Erik Satie. This is Je ne pédie. I don't know how to say Je ne pédie. Je ne pédie numéro 1. Let me change my batteries here. My monitor's kicked out right in the middle of that. That being Erik Satie's Je ne pédie number 1. Probably like the most widely recognizable of all these pieces I'm playing, other than perhaps the Moonlight Sonata. So, one more. Oh, and this one. This one I'm a little intimidated by because this is one of the most adventurous as far as wrapping my fingers around goes. It's one of my favorites of all time. It's the Maple Leaf Rag by Scott Joplin. But back in the day when I was a kid, getting into Scott Joplin, they had like the James Bastian Easy version of it, which was in G. But the real version is in A flat, which is a kind of a tricky key. And man, there's a lot going on in this, but it is so juicy and tasty that I'm just going to play through it and see what happens, come what may, and we will be ironing these out in the weeks and months to come. So this is like, we're setting the bar here. We're determining the null set, the control group, whatever you want to call it. So here's the control group starting point of the Maple Leaf Rag. First time in, I don't know, about a year. I don't know. I have to look back and see when the last time I did these classical live streams was. And it doesn't really matter. We're here. We're now. Let's see what happens. I love this piece. Oh, that wasn't so bad. That is such. Oh, that goes so deep. I mean, for me, back to 5th grade, just around the time The Sting was released. I wonder what year that was. Might have been a little earlier than that. But anyways, The Sting, like some great orchestral arrangements of those pieces by Scott Joplin that just kind of heralded a Scott Joplin renaissance. And yeah, right about that time, I was like, I got an easy version of the Entertainer. And then one night, my piano teacher calls up my parents to tell me that there was this show on NBC. I think it was NBC. I'm going to say one of the TV networks. They had a made-for-TV movie about Scott Joplin, and it was so good. And there's one scene that stuck with me the rest of my life, and it was one of those YouTube moments where I was like, one of my first moments where I was like, oh my gosh, I'll bet you I could find that on YouTube. And sure enough, it's the piano duel scene. Look up piano duel Scott Joplin movie, something like that. And it's like, I think it's Billy D. Williams actually that played Scott Joplin, and he goes with his buddy to the bar and is watching this kind of head to head. They got the pianos facing each other, and they got like the champion guy playing, and then one by one people would come up and like try to like, take him on, and then the old timer, if he came over and he turned your cup over, then you were out of there, and the next person would come up, and of course Scott Joplin comes up there, and he starts like all over the place, and the guy's keeping up with him, but then Scott Joplin starts changing keys, and the guy's like, what key you in? What key you in? And I never forgot that. It's such a good scene. And yeah, Scott Joplin, who I think a thesis paper should be written at the university level about him being the singular connecting point between classical Western piano music and the world of rock and roll, because, it started with ragtime and then boogie woogie and the blues and jazz and rock and then everything that it kind of branched off from that. Well, it all started with Scott Joplin, if you ask me. And, a lot of those jazz people and those boogie woogie guys were just playing by ear, no musical training whatsoever. But Scott Joplin, he took formal lessons. He had a piano teacher. He knew a lot of the literature. So, hearkening back to those Chopin pieces that I'm telling you had, precursors of jazz voicings to come, Scott Joplin knew about that stuff. So I really think that he is a pivot point unlike any other, bridging the worlds of classical, quote-unquote, music and popular music, which would be revisited by George Gershwin in, 20, 30 years after that with the Rhapsody of Blue, which you heard, which was one foot firmly planted in the world of, like, orchestral Western European music and 1 foot planted equally as firmly in jazz and blues. And so, yeah. Anyways, just some little reflections on, I don't know, the two really, really solid connecting points between what some might say is highbrow music and that pop stuff. Who knows? Okay, anybody watching? Let's see, one person still watching. So, dun, 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 dun. All right. You know what? Let's do. I'm gonna do the Arabesques because I like them so much. Claude Debussy, the Arabesques, and then I'm going to go get some to eat. Claude Debussy de Arabesques numéro 1 et 2. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up for now. That was fun getting the juices flowing again on that. So, yeah, we'll do it again. Maybe I'll probably have to live stream some of my guitar stuff here pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. As in the now for something completely different department, but yay, it's all good. All right, so Lucy, that was the nicest comment you just gave me. Wow, surprised to hear the Prokofiev piece. Oh, I'm glad you heard that one. And I promise it's gonna get more coherent as time progresses. But yeah, that was. She says I gave up on him after Peter and the Wolf. Right, because Prokofiev, the number one thing that people mostly know out there is by him is. All right, that's Prokofiev. All right, thanks a lot, y'all. That was fun, and there's a lot more to come. So, have a good evening. Friday is on its way, and the weekend awaits. Cheers. Love you lots. Stay cool. Stay kind. Stay safe. Boom.